I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it, I didn't believe in it. I never given it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.
Got the Bigfoot Finders, RD Rovin and Brenda Rhodes here with us. They have sent us some material. How are y'all doing?
Hey, we're doing great, man.
Been talking for an hour. I feel like I know you. Like, where were you people at? We've been here the whole time. Just checking out some of these pictures. Yeah. So you guys, where are you guys located? I didn't ask you that.
Yeah, so we were when we wrote our book. We just recently moved to a town called Henderson, Tennessee. We're basically the biggest town close to us is Jackson, Tennessee.
Know where that
but
is.
we get pictures everywhere. We've gotten them in 5 different states, and so it's not just like we just get pictures around here or whatever, but or see these things. But yeah, most of what we do, we try to stay pretty close to home.
All right. And what's the cat's name? It's going to be here. Put him in the description.
It's itty bitty.
It's all right to be itty bitty.
That's right.
So
bigger than Jackson fan.
Your website is thebigfootfinders.com, and you had in the bio that you had an experience when you were younger. I just wanted to hear about that before we got started. Always want to hear about people's initial experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I had two visuals, and and I've shared it a lot recently. So hopefully it's not redundant to some people out there, but
they never get old. Good.
Yeah, it never gets old. I tell people it's kind of like trying to put a library book back on the shelf when there's no slot for it. It's hard to process this, especially when the world says these creatures don't exist. But no, my initial just kind of being around Bigfoot, not knowing it, started at my grandfather's house, probably when I was in 1st, 2nd grade. We'd sit out and we'd hear wood knocks. I'd always ask him what they were, and it'd be in the evening, really late, and he'd say, "Hey, they're building a barn over there or something." And so my buddy, my friend from down the road would look at me and he'd say, "Ain't no barn over there." And so we would just hear, it'd just be like sound like somebody was taking a baseball bat and hitting a tree, and it would echo. Usually it was, they weren't even coming from the same place. And I told my pa that. He said, "No, that's just the echo, man. They're building a barn over there." So you fast forward, I was probably 7th or 8th grade, and I had taken up deer hunting. My grandfather has at the time he had 100 acres in Rutherford County, Tennessee, right, a little place called Lascassas, right outside of Murfreesboro, and it was surrounded by nothing but woods, and had nothing on it but cedar trees and ticks. It's pretty much what it had. And so, I loved it, man. It's just, as a small kid, it was amazing. So I decided to, he had a pond dug for me on his property. And I tell people he probably had the only 100 acres in Rutherford County that wouldn't hold water no matter what you did. And I love fishing. And so he had dug a pond on the back. He had 2 sections of property. One section was called his sagegrass field. And so he had dug a pond on the back side of his 39 acres that was connected to his home. And because it was just more convenient. He had about 61 acres at the end of the road. We called it his hillside. But the 31 acres, it was deep. It went deep into the woods, and it was narrow. And in the back of it was something we called his sagegrass field. And so I'm just like I said, 7th, 8th grade kid. I'm going back there. I like to go back and look at that pond because my dream is the pond's actually going to hold water. The reality was it usually had maybe ankle to knee deep water in it. I'd just look in it, see if there were any deer tracks. The field in the back, I had to go down a logging trail to get to it. And so I walked down this logging trail and come up on the field. And I just remember it was windy that day. The wind was blowing kind of toward me. And the sagegrass was probably 2.5, 3 feet high at least. It was bending that sagegrass over, and it was just flowing with the wind. It was a really neat day. And I got up on the edge of my grandfather's pond, and it was toward the far end of the field where my deer stand was. Now, he had this pond just dug out in the middle of the field. On the far end was the deer stand, and on the end with the deer stand on it, he had the entire fence row cleared out. So there was nothing left but about 8 big trees. One of them was a maple that had my deer stand in it. And so I would just get up, because the pond was elevated and the sagegrass was pretty high. I would get up on that pond and walk around and just look. That's the first thing I did before I went any further. So when I got to the far end of the pond, closest to my deer stand at the far end of the field, which was probably a little under 100 yards, probably 75, 80 yards, something like that, I noticed something out of the right corner of my eye. It's just almost like the first thing I noticed was I felt like my eye had something in it, like my eye was blurry. And I thought that was weird, but I never made a connection. It's just like so I remember rubbing my eye, believe it or not. Everything I remember rubbing my eye. And then I saw what I thought was just somebody begin to walk out of the thick woods. We didn't even go in there squirrel hunting. I mean, it was thick, a lot of undergrowth. Out of the thick woods, I saw somebody begin to walk out of there where it looked kind of blurry. The best way I would describe it, and quite honestly, this could we've got a lot of pictures that would confirm, but this may answer why the pictures are blurry. Because what we're finding out about these creatures. But back then, I didn't know any of this. I just knew that somebody was walking out on my grandfather's property, and nobody was supposed to be hunting there. And so as I saw this person walk out, it almost looked like I was looking through. If you ever looked at something through an intense heat, everything's just a little wavy. And then that went away as it walked out. And it was in the shade, so it just looked like a big person in brown coveralls with brown boots and brown shoes or brown gloves on, and a brown toboggan. And I remember the toboggan looked like it just had a perfect hole cut out for the face. And that was when it was in the shade. I didn't notice the cone-shaped head at that point. I pretty much saw the side profile of it most of the way, but it began to walk out, and it stepped into the sunshine. The first 3 steps, it was in the shade. It was under the trees. And I just remember thinking as a little kid, oh no, I'm going to have to tell somebody to get off my grandpa's property. And, but when it hit the sunshine, I remember you could see like a gloss to the hair, and it was brown. This one was brown. Most of the ones we get seem to be black nowadays, but this one was brown. And, it had that gloss to it. And so I remember when I saw that, I'm like, I just couldn't process it. But initially also I noticed the way it walked, and this thing did not walk like a person at all. It was completely upright. It had an arch in the way it leaned its head forward. It wasn't like it had a long neck, but it was like the arch started lower in the back. So it leaned forward a lot more, but it didn't lean forward like a person would that was walking maybe with poor posture. It leaned forward with kind of the arch was maybe 2 vertebrae down. It was just weird how it looked. Its arms were really long, and it was swinging its arms. And I remember specifically the gait, because I thought, this does not walk like a person, because it did not lock its legs. It almost scooted. It looked like it was skating across through there. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And I remember the moment I thought, I'm not looking at a person, I'm looking at a Bigfoot. I mean, I'd seen them on TV or seen, what I think In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy back in the day. And I thought, do what now?
I said, it's old there. You're dating yourself.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, he had the stuff on there. And I remember I was totally frozen in fear. The only gun I had with me was a 20-shot single-gauge shotgun with quail load in it, and I had it at a 45-degree angle, just pointed like that. And I'm a good ways away from it anyhow. I mean, in yards. It seemed close at the time. I was just frozen. And as it began to walk across, it was walking very slow and methodical. I've always felt like it was trying to reveal itself to me. And as it did, it kind of swung its shoulders. It did more movement with its shoulders than it did with its head. But it swung its shoulders and looked at me, but it kept walking the same way. It's like, I don't know if it was just using its peripheral of its right eye, but it kept walking the same way. And when it looked at me, I felt a very specific impression come over me that just said, don't mess with me and I won't mess with you. Mess with me and you'll regret it. People talk about mind speak. They can judge it, call it what they want. I don't know if I was just afraid, but when that thing looked at me, I specifically felt, don't mess with me and I won't mess with you. Mess with me and you'll regret it. Then it turned its head back, and I'm like, there's not a chance I'm messing with you, you know?
Nope.
And so it turned its head back. I'm still completely frozen. I don't even know if I was breathing. I could hear my heart was just beating in my neck, and look in that vein in your neck. And I was watching it, and I watched it just slowly walk across about an 85-yard wide opening. I probably saw it for 35 to 45 seconds or so. And I remember as it was nearing the corner of the woods, right there in Lascassas, Tennessee, I remember thinking, the second this thing goes out of sight into those woods, I've got a decision to make. And that decision is, how do I more safely get back to my grandfather's house? And I knew if this thing followed the trails, the logging trails, it was going to intersect me on the way back. But also, I knew it wasn't moving fast, and I knew I could. And so, obviously, we didn't have the benefit of the internet. We didn't know that this was back in the early 80s, and we didn't know how fast these creatures could be. And so, the moment it went out of sight, I thought I could run toward it and hope it continues and try to bypass it on the backside, but I'm going to try to outrun it, and hopefully it won't be waiting on me when I get back to the intersection of the two logging trails headed back to my grandpa's house. And so I just took off running as fast as I could. When I went past that intersection, I didn't even look. I didn't even look to my right to see if it was coming out. I just kept on going as fast as I could, ran all the way back to my grandfather's home. Probably, I'd say, I don't know, half a mile or so. Ran all the way back, ran in his house, and told him I thought I just saw Bigfoot. Remarkably enough, they believed me. At least they acted like they did, and so I think they knew there was stuff out there. So that's pretty much my first encounter. My second encounter was very traumatic, particularly for the person that was with me. And that's one reason Brenda and I do this today. And we say the world deserves to know the truth. Primarily because of the second encounter. You just can't unsee, because I remember, Bobby, as a young kid, I was not standing in that field trying to see Bigfoot. I was standing in that field trying to unsee a Bigfoot. I was trying to convince myself this can't be Bigfoot I'm looking at. It just can't be. And so I wasn't trying to contrive this in my mind. I was trying to figure out every logical way it could be anything else.
You said that about his. I was paying attention the whole time, but when you said it about the neck, there's another guy from North Carolina. His name's Johnny Tucker, and here it is. I sounded Bigfoot trying to keep me from seeing it. But check this out. He sent me this from a T-shirt he saw on vacation that he said perfectly described what he saw. Yeah, the silhouette. Yeah, so what I saw was thicker. But it it leans forward and lurches forward from that low spot. That's exactly right. Now, Brenda and I saw a big, tall, skinny one like that last year. And that's the best full body view we had all year last year as we saw that one. But the one I saw growing up was a lot thicker. It wasn't fat, but it was a lot thicker, but it was that same build. It was like if you took that one there and evenly distributed probably couple 100 pounds on it. The one I saw, the first one at my grandpa's though, that one was probably, I've always guessed it walked straight under my deer stand, which wasn't very high. And so I think it was somewhere between 7 and 7.5 feet. It wasn't fat, it was just thick. And so, but yeah, it looked very much like that. He said that neck angle was that neck silhouette part was the closest he'd ever seen any depiction.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right of that one. We've seen different looking creatures since, but that one, that's exactly how it looked. It was much more like a a lot like a classic patty type. Didn't have an extremely conical head, but it did have one. But yeah, and it didn't seem, from where I was at, it didn't seem to have a bit of hair on the center part of its face. It just looked like the center of its face was hairless and everything else had hair.
Yep, that's the classic patty type. Like it's got like a hole in its ski mask.
Yeah, it literally looked like it's wearing, that's what I thought. It's a toboggan or ski mask. I thought it's wearing, everything's brown. I thought that's stupid because it's, you know, it was probably the early fall. Maybe squirrel season was already open. I'm not for sure, but why would you be out in the woods dressed like that? That was my first thought until I realized, you know, what I was looking at. And that's my first encounter. But my second one took place probably about 3 miles from my grandfather's property there. If there are any Middle Tennessee people, I don't mind sharing because everything's changed so much. I mean, we find a lot of them around rivers. That's one of the main places we look, rivers and Oxbow lakes, things like that. But this one was on a river. We were camping out one night. My friend, God rest his soul, he was a good guy. He was a little older than me. I was 17 at the time, and he was, I think, 28 or 29. And he had bought a boat from me, and we put that boat in the East Fork of the Stones River in Las Casas, Tennessee, at a river called Guy James Bridge on the East Fork of the Stones River. And anybody from around that area, there used to be a mill pond down there, and that mill pond collapsed, so the water's not nearly as deep anymore. But back before the early 90s, that mill pond backed water up a couple of miles where it was deeper. And so we floated down there. We were smallmouth fishing, and we're going to spend the whole weekend there, 2 nights. It was a Friday night. It's April. It's in April. I don't know. I just know it was a Friday night in April. And I know it was really still chilly, especially at night. And so we got to the gravel bar we knew we were going to stay on. And my friend and I were just sitting there chilling. He had made a fire. He was a fearless outdoor type guy. I mean, he's the kind of guy that would just go out in the woods for 2 or 3 days by himself. He wasn't a convenient outdoorsman. If he was still around today, he wouldn't be hunting out of some heated blind. He would, if he had enough land, he'd probably stalk them. He was just like that. And he had made us a fire, and we were sitting there. And I remember it was probably between 9 and 9:30. And we were talking about going to bed. I think we'd already reeled our lines in because we'd been doing some catfishing. And my friend looks at me, and he said these words. He said, "It sure has gotten quiet outside." Ooh. And within 5 to 10 seconds of him saying, "It sure has gotten quiet outside," and it was a dark night too, but within just a few seconds, the best way I can describe it is it sounded like a bomb hit the water, dropped from a high altitude. There's no way to describe the noise that whatever hit the water made. It was just undescribable. We didn't get up. We were sitting down. We did not get up. We landed on our feet, both of us just shaking. And of course, he's cursing. He's saying, "What was that? What was that?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know." And he grabbed his flashlight. And his flashlight, I say in my book, the Bigfoot Finders, in our book, that it was slightly weaker than 2 elderly fireflies rubbing their butts together. It was one of those old D-cell flashlights, and it had, it was D-battery flashlights, and you had to shake it to get it to work. And this thing had hit the water at the far end of the gravel bar, which was the water was up. It had rained, and so the water was probably up a foot higher than normal. And so this thing was probably 40 feet from our fire, and our fire probably gave off 30 feet worth of light, 25 to 30 feet worth of light. And so we started to make our way. I was looking over his shoulder. He was leading the charge, and we started to make our way to see what had hit the water, because it was obvious it hit the water upstream from us and very close to the gravel bar. Well, when we got up close to that end, my friend starts to say, he says, "Those are eyes. My God, those are eyes. Those are eyes." And we're just looking at this thing, and there's these 2, no exaggeration, the size of silver dollars. I mean, massive, massive, solid red, eyes that were almost self-illuminating, and they were just glaring. He was putting his flashlight on it, but I told you how weak that was. He was leaned out toward it. It was maybe another 25 feet out in the water, and he was holding it. He was shaking already. And then he starts to say, "It's a monster. It's a monster." Now, bear in mind, Bigfoot never clicked with me at that point. We didn't have the internet. I didn't know they had red eyes. I didn't know they didn't get in the water. When he started saying monster, I'm like, what's he talking about? The Loch Ness Monster? This place isn't big enough for that. And so I had no idea. I was not brave. I was in denial. I was just in total denial. And he just kept saying, "It's a monster. It's a monster." And this thing, we watched it for 3 minutes, and it's just sitting there looking at us, and it gets where we can see the silhouette of the head. And I saw you motion about the one earlier. This thing, if that one earlier had a head, if that one earlier was 7 feet tall, head comparison to head comparison, this thing's head was like that. It was very, very pointed on the top. I mean, it looked almost, but all we could see was the silhouette and these huge red eyes. And it literally looked like, from where I was at, that probably it was just from the lips up that was out of the water. So this thing, just its nose and its top lip were out of the water, and we're seeing these huge eyes. And then it tilts its head, to the right or left first, but it tilts its head in one direction, just like that. And it's looking at us. It's like it's examining us, like it's trying to figure out what we are. And it straightens his head back up. And my buddy's just freaking out. And he's braver than me. I'm just great. I'm just in denial. I just can't even wrap my brain around it. And then it tilts its head over to the other way, and it's looking straight. It's just looking straight at us the whole time. And he just keeps saying, "It's a monster. It's a blank, blank monster." And I'm like, man, it's not a monster. It can't be. I knew cows came down to get water there, and I was just trying to give some sort of rational answer to calm him down. And anyhow, so we sit there and watch it. We don't move. We're hardly even breathing, man. And the next thing you know, I mean, we watched it for probably 3 solid minutes, no exaggeration. I mean, I know every second feels like a lifetime when you're this close, but we didn't really understand. He knew. If he would have said Bigfoot, I'd have probably just crawled up on the gravel bar and just started crying and shivering. But I never made the connection until later that it was a Sasquatch. I just knew it had these enormous red eyes, this big head. So the next thing that happens after about 3 minutes or so of watching it is it pushes out more toward the center of the river, but still pretty close to the gravel bar. And I know because of the angle that my fishing line went down. I've fished that place before. The river was up about a foot. I knew it was around 7 or so feet, maybe 7, 8 feet deep there right now. And this thing pushes out to that part of the river. And then it starts to go down the river in a total zigzag pattern, super fast, super outrunning the current. It's just shoot, 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 just zigzagging down. And it never takes its eyes off us. We're following it downstream, walking at a fast pace, and this thing's outpacing us in the water. But it looks almost like we would if we were in a 3 foot deep or 3.5 foot deep swimming pool and we were using our feet to propel us. That's what it reminded me of. And it stopped right in front of our fire. It stopped right in front of the campfire. And at that point, we're just both speechless. And we sit there and look at it. It does the head tilt thing again, like it's trying to figure us out. And then my buddy looks at me and he says, "Grab my shotgun." Because we had totally forgotten we had a shotgun. We were just freaking out, man. We had forgotten about the shotgun. I grabbed his shotgun. It's a 12 gauge double. I think it's a double barrel. And I remember it had double aught buck because he told me what he had with him. And he said, "Hold this light." He hands me the light, and I'm just shaking. I couldn't even hardly hold the light on the thing. These huge eyes. The very second he pulled the gun up to his shoulder, man, this thing goes blah, 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 and just vanished. It was gone. It left these big, massive bubbles, probably 6, 7, 8 big bubbles. I mean, huge. You could see them coming up because it was closer. It was maybe 20 feet out, maybe 25 or 30 feet from our fire. We got some firelight. Our eyes had adjusted. We had the flashlight on it. You could see it, and you could see these bubbles coming up. And then everything just went totally silent. And we were just like, our jaws were on the ground, man. We didn't know what to do. We were looking for it. And it's probably 10 minutes went by, and my friend says, "Man, it's got to come up for air. It's got to come up for air." And I just remember thinking, well, if it's a monster, if it's like the Loch Ness Monster, why does it have to come up for air? I mean, I didn't get his it just never registered with me. And he said, it's got to come up for air. And then finally we talked, and he said, we're going to take shifts tonight, and we're going to watch for this thing to make sure it doesn't come out of the water and kill us. And he said, that thing could kill us if it wanted to. And I said, I don't know what it was, but I said, I'm going to sleep. I'm not taking a shift. And I always felt bad about that, but I didn't know. You just can't wrap your brain around this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't fearless. I was in total denial. I thought maybe a cow had drowned in the water, and I didn't know what had happened. And so the next morning I get up, and he's sitting there, and he's still got the fire going really good, and he's got his shotgun across his shoulder. He's all wild-eyed, and the only thing we ever said about it again is he said, it never came up for air. And now I'm not saying it didn't. I know now they can go underwater a long ways, and probably it went around the corner somewhere and just swam underwater. I don't know, but we never saw it come up for air. We never heard it come up for air. We never heard another peak. And my friend sat up all night. We, instead of fishing the weekend, we packed up, went home, never said another word about it, never spoke another word. And he moved away within probably a few months of that. I seldom saw him, and here's he took his own life within 2 years of that event.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
I didn't stay in contact, so I'm not insinuating that event trigger, was a factor in his suicide. But what I will say is I know that he had severe PTSD on the ride home. That's really the last time. It was just different. It was strange between us since that night, but I didn't take it very seriously. I knew we'd encountered something, but you can't wrap your brain around that. And so you're like, what do I do with this? And so I just kind of filed it away and didn't think anything about it. And as I got older, I began to research Sasquatch. When I say research, I was just looking on YouTube at the time. I finally graduated from the old flip phone back in about 2015 or whatever, and got a smartphone and figured out how to use YouTube. And I found out that other people had seen these in the South. And then I got to hearing stories like by Tim Kumbo Baker and some other people, and talking about the big red eyes and talking about them swimming underwater for long periods of time. And at that moment, it triggered. And I said, no wonder he was so shocked, because he was in front of me. He could see this. He knew what it was. And let me tell you, if that first one, I've always guessed the first one I saw to weigh, 350, 400 pounds, maybe that's a little bit on the light side. But if this one was like, there's just no way you can wrap your brain around how big this one would have been, just comparing the size of the heads. It was just humongous. So that's kind of how I wound up getting started and got interested in Bigfoot. Went through a marriage 29 years, and I wasn't really supposed to talk about it. And when I met the love of my life, Brenda, we worked for the same company, same office. Her office was just 1,500 miles away from mine. She was in the Phoenix office. Yeah, and we fell in love, got married a little over a year ago. Hey, we've only been photographing these things for a little over a year. And so, but I told her, I said, I really want to go out and see if we can get some pictures. And she was like, and I told her, and she took me very serious. And she said, let's do it. That's just the way she is about everything. And so, listen, man, we have a great time out there, but that's how we got started doing what we're doing. And we started I think it's February the 16th of 2023 is the time we went out the very first time to do this stuff.
So that's recent.
Yeah, it's very, very recent. In that time, we've written a book, photographed so many, it's crazy. And we saw 7 last year. I know if I was on the other end of that, I used to be the guy that I would cut something off when somebody talks about seeing as much as I say. And, we saw Dogman too, not as many, but we've seen it all. And that kind of stuff used to just blow my mind. And quite honestly, I thought this person's just full of it. And all I can do is tell what we see. All I can do is show the pictures. These things don't stop and pose for you, but we've got some good ones. But yeah, I mean, it's really, we have really just been, we didn't think we would get a single picture. we thought we'd still be going out almost every weekend and still not have a single picture, not have anything. And instead it just blew up. And so that's how we got started, and got started doing this, was just kind of going out, just hoping we would get a picture. And instead we found a lot more than we bargained for.
Yeah. Well, Brenda, did you have a paradigm shift whenever you started going out with them? Like, you didn't believe it first and go outside and
I just never really even thought about it at first.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe in aliens and in UFOs, but I never really thought about Bigfoot or Dogman or any cryptids like that. So it was just a fun, okay, let's go do this. I believed his story totally, because this man is not one to tell a lie about anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I totally believed what he said. I'm like, okay, let's just go do it. If it's going to take us a couple of years to find a Bigfoot, oh, so be it. And, we listened to some Scott Carpenter, learned, how he did it.
Yeah.
And Rovin always told me about, maybe the smell. You get this awful smell. And so the first time we went out, it was crazy. It was almost at the end of the day. And we were headed back to the car and walking by this lake, and all of a sudden I smelled this just nasty old gym sock, dead animal smell. And I did what he told me to do, start taking pictures. And he, finally turned around and realized what I was doing, and he started taking them as well. And that's where we found the Bigfoot on the cover of our book, and several more. It was just crazy, but we didn't see them right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until he was on a plane trip to Roanoke, Virginia, to do some iPad training, because he could not catch on to a simple program that our company was making him go to.
I'm technically challenged.
Very technically challenged.
iPad training.
Yeah, iPad training.
I had a better idea of what to do with the iPad, but anyhow, go ahead.
So he's on that airplane and he's looking through the pictures and zooming in on them and zooming out on them and just looking through them, and he finds these creatures in them, and he gets off the plane, and the first thing he does is texts me. He said, "You wouldn't believe what I saw. You cannot believe it." And he sends them to me, and I'm like, "What? That was out there when we were out there? That's some scary crap." We've seen a lot more evil stuff than these guys. I mean, these guys are nothing. We've never been hurt, or, worst thing we've had is acorns and rocks thrown. Grunted at once, but
You heard a grunt?
yes. You tell that story real good.
Yeah.
So-
The grunt stories are always fascinating to me, because that's like something you're not going to hear from anything else other than maybe a deer.
Yeah. So see, I didn't even know that, Bobby. But that's pretty cool. But no, we were at, most of our best pictures, a lot of the pictures in the book, and almost to a T, all of our visual sightings come when we just feel in our gut we need to be in an area. I mean, we just feel in our gut. Even if we've never been there, nobody's ever seen anything there, we could care less if it's considered a hot spot. But this was one of those places we just felt like we needed to be there. And so we looped around. The water level was dropping, and so there was a little trail that was kind of opened up. It was pretty wet, but we went back through there, and actually that one was a dog man. But we've been grunted at a couple of times. But that grunt, the way we both described it, and Brenda's actions spoke loud, because she literally, if there would have been somebody with a measuring tape, we might have had a world record for the high jump on her hands, because man, she just absolutely did something that she's not capable of doing. I mean, and she jumped and screamed and landed, and we're both looking, and we're like, you don't know what to do. You're out there by yourself, and what do you do? We just we just don't act afraid, and so at that point, things like that, sometimes it'll be a tree break or something, or a couple times it has been a grunt. But it literally sounded like a rhinoceros making a snorting sound. Was probably that was the best way to describe that one. And we wound up with a great dogman picture, a dogman. I guess it's a dog woman, but a female and a pup. And that's what our best pictures of dogman is always a female with a pup. Almost always, almost every single time there's a pup close, and it's usually this time of the year. So they're easier to photograph and more susceptible. But with that one though, I mean it literally we took a few pictures and got right on out of there, and. Because there was water on one side, there wasn't far enough water on the other side. It snorted right beside us. And so it must have had an echo because we always thought it was on one side, but we went back. A lot of times when we take these pictures, we'll go back and match them to the place and say that could possibly have been anything else. And we found the trees and line up with it and take pictures to compare them to. And there was nothing that this could have been. But yeah, that was the loudest snort. And then I had a snort. It was more like a sneeze or a cough sort of a thing. But one of my visuals that I had last year, many of them were not out. And we don't call we call it finding. We don't go researching. We don't do wood knocks. We don't do yells. We don't do whoops. We don't do screams. We don't use infrared. We really do everything wrong. We don't go out in the woods at night because we get too many pictures of what's out there in the daytime. But
I won't be out there with them at night.
No, absolutely not. I've got friends that do. They can have it. They can have the night. Just give us the day. But I pull off on the side of the road. I'm in sales, so I travel a lot. Anytime I see a place, if I got to get out and stretch or quite honestly just take a leak, I'm out in the country. I'll look for a place beside a river, a bridge, some sort of just a little pull off that not many people go to. And I pulled off one of those right here. I mean, many of our sightings are just like that, very spontaneous and usually beside rivers. But I pulled off and I remember looking to my left and I just walked straight down this little hill down a logging trail, maybe 50 feet, maybe 100 feet at the most off the highway there. It was a highway with, the lines were painted. There were cars coming by. And I saw something to my left. It was very gray in appearance, very gray. And I thought, that just looks odd. And it was sticking out. I thought that can't be a Bigfoot because it was so far to my left. It was almost on the road. I mean, it was like one small layer of trees and this thing would have been at the road. It was probably 30 feet from the road standing there. And it was really tall. I mean, it had probably been 7.5, 8 feet tall. And I remember looking at it and thinking, this can't be a Bigfoot that I'm looking at. And that's the way most of the ones we see is like that. It's not like we got one full body last year, but most of the time we see them lean out and we think it can't be. So we take a picture and sure enough it is. Well, this guy, I didn't even take a picture of it because I thought that's too close to that's something we've learned. I mean, we've got pictures off Interstate 40. Some of those that you saw on our website were straight off Interstate 40. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we're a little deeper in the woods than that. But I thought this can't be a Bigfoot because it was kind of had some trees around it. And it was leaning out. And I thought it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. So I took pictures of everywhere else to see if I could find a Bigfoot in it. Mm-hmm. I turned around to leave and it snorted at me. It's like a snort or a sneeze. I don't know how to explain it, but there's more lung volume and depth than a human would have. It pretty much like some sort of a animal from Africa or something, just a big, but this one was short. And I just turned around and took 2 pictures of it and left at that point, and we got a really good picture that we show there. I don't know if it's on our website or not. We show everything on TikTok, man. TikTok's got all our good stuff. Yeah. So
it's a gallery of stuff on there. I was looking at it a while ago.
Yeah. We got that first day. If you've seen that one with me standing beside the life-size blown up Bigfoot, yeah. His name's Pat, after Patty on the Patterson Gimlin film. We got that our first day too. We wound up with 6 or 7 our very first day out. It just blew our minds. We were like, it's just unbelievable. But
that's on your gallery page, isn't it? The one with the banner?
Yeah, we've got him on there. Yeah, that was our first day. The ones on the cover of our book were the first day. Some people don't see them, but we do a really good breakdown on TikTok called 3 Bigfoot in One Day, or 3 Bigfoot in One Picture. And we show them, we change the lighting behind them a little bit. You can see them really good. But yeah, we got all that our first day out. But those are the 2 snorts we've heard. I know I went off for a while on snorts, but yeah.
And that's all we can do is change the lighting on these pictures to, bring them out a little bit better so people can see them. We're not technically inclined whatsoever. I mean, I've never used TikTok, never used YouTube. So, I mean, it's all new. I mean, when we first started posting, we were holding his cell phone up.
Yeah.
I was videotaping it with my phone. And so we just realized, oh, you can actually upload them onto TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would see people do it. Yeah, I'd say, hey, Brenda, look, you can do that because he's doing it. Now figure out how he did it, please.
Well, you figured it out because you've got nearly 2,000 subscribers on there now.
We're good. It's growing.
I see a couple. Do you have any that are cloaking, or is that a thing?
Dude, I'm telling you what, right now, let me tell you, these things are not what people think they are. We've got pictures that'll blow your mind. We took a good picture. He's in that gallery. We call him Big Lips. We saw him
talking about. I know exactly.
We saw him from about 150 yards, and wound up going down there. Got a picture of him, and actually got a doorway. You can, if you get a chance to look at our YouTube at some point, Portals, Doorways, and Dimensions.
We're on a little cell phone.
No, it's.
I don't mind his face getting really close.
It's not that one. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you just had it. But
right there in the middle. Yeah, that's Big Lips.
Is it? I can't see.
That's Big Lips.
It looks like lips.
But anyhow, we got a picture of a perfectly square doorway, and we did a TikTok called Portals, Doorways, and Dimensions. We've gotten two of those doorways. We got a dogman next to another one. The dogman one, there's an excessive amount of light just coming out of both of them. You can see eyeballs coming out of them. And we got several pictures of the Bigfoot where I saw one in Manila, Arkansas. It was one of the 7 I saw last year. And it walked up really fast, stopped in front of some vines. I got my the first time I pull my camera up, the camera goes black. I can't take a picture. Our phones only do that when we're trying to photograph cryptids. No other time. And so my camera goes black. I boot it back up. By the time I get it up, I get a picture of him, and he hasn't moved. He's just standing there like that. So he's still solid at that point. The next picture, you can see his outline. You can see his face is turned to the right, but he's melting into the vines behind him. The following picture, he's looking straight at us, but he is almost totally blended into the vines. We have another one that we took the same place we were yesterday. We took this when there were a bunch of downed trees. We took an 8-picture succession, and there's something that looks like a rake or crawler standing beside what looks to be a Bigfoot. And we do those 3 pictures together. Mm-hmm. In the first picture, you can see them clearly, and they become the vine background. They literally melt into the vines, but you can still, we've got all 8 pictures. We just showed 3 on there. I mean, it's hard to explain all this stuff, but yes, we've got pictures of them cloaking, and many of them, many times, even the better pictures, whatever tree they're standing beside, they'll be the exact same color. I mean, these things can, I think it's beyond, anyhow, this is not just a Gigantopithecus, and I'm sorry, I know that upset some folks, but it's not. I wish it were different. But we tell people this, that photographing these things is the highest level of research, because you can look back through those pictures. We've got one Bigfoot that is totally transparent. You can see through him. He's in front of another creature of some kind. So this stuff is real. I mean, that's all I can tell folks. I wish it weren't. I wish we weren't talking about cloaking Bigfoots. I wish when we started a year ago, we thought, hey, giant ape, we couldn't wrap our brain around this stuff till we started seeing it. So
I'm glad you are talking about it.
Yeah,
I go from anthropologist to cloaking to anthropologist to cloaking. It's kind of fun.
Well, let me sincerely, I appreciate and respect all members of the Bigfoot community. Mm-hmm. Please don't hate on me, but I can tell you from the pictures we've taken, we have found out more than a lot of researchers find out in years of researching, because when we look into those pictures, you see things like transparent. These things are transparent. Sometimes we'll catch one that's transparent. You can completely see through them and completely tell it's a Bigfoot. Sometimes you'll catch them You'll catch the original, then you'll watch it catch a succession of photos as it cloaks into its background. I wish that were not the case because people would be more prone to bleed it. I wasn't looking for this. I didn't care if Dogman existed. We didn't want none of this other stuff we photographed. We didn't care about little people. We didn't care about any of these cryptids. Our job would be easier if this were just a big ape. But I can tell you right now, no matter what anybody says, I don't care how many letters of the alphabet they have behind their name, it's not just a big ape.
Have you considered investing in like a spring-loaded camera? I've been looking into those lately, like a regular old school photography. Yeah,
a lot of people have asked us that. And we actually had Leslie with Cryptids Canada. She's very kind, and we very well may buy one if her friend still has it for sale. Having said that, what we use is Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultras. Mm-hmm. So it is about the best cell phone camera you can get. It's got a 100x zoom. Having said that, with us, it's not just the quality of the picture. It's the indiscretion and ease that you can take the picture at without triggering or alarming these creatures. That's important. So to us, it's not just about picture quality. Normally, they don't just sit there and let you zoom in on them. That's rare. No, it's not like usually we don't even know. Yeah, once you're on to them, they're gone, man. They're start to morph or blend or they're vanish or walk off or whatever. But so to us, the indiscretion of using our cell phone cameras, we may get that. I can't remember what kind we're looking at exactly.
I think it's a Nokia.
A Nokia. It's a pretty nice camera, but right now the convenience of just being able to snap or sometimes video these things with our phones, it far outweighs the advantage of having something possibly with a little better zoom.
The reason I ask, have you ever seen the movie Nope that came out last year? You really should. You should probably drop everything. And but the whole premise is there's an alien and it messes with electronics, and so they set up these the used car lots have the big wavy things. Yeah. And they set up a row of them whenever the alien comes around and messes with electronics, so whenever they go down, they know the alien's there. And this film director from Hollywood designs a giant Roger Patterson kind of thing. Yeah. And he gets the actual footage of it. And they're trying to get it with like a digital camera, and that's the whole thing. I'm thinking, I wonder if that's the Hollywood trying to tell us how to get these things on tape.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me tell you.
Always ask about that.
When we're talking about these things being either a natural or just a Gigantopithecus or a giant ape of some type versus some sort of other being. And listen, science changes in every generation, and somehow the heroes of one generation were the idiots of the past generation.
Like daggum. Why can't I think of the name? Aristotle, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't believe me, I mean, the Wright brothers, they were crazy until they weren't crazy. Christopher Columbus was crazy until he wasn't crazy. Henry Ford was crazy until he wasn't crazy. All sorts of people in medicine and science have been crazy. Science has to evolve to be science. So when somebody says it can't be because that doesn't line up with science, that just doesn't line up with current science. You don't know if it's going to line up with future science or not. And so I don't think there's really this big distinction. We don't claim, some people would say it has to be paranormal or it has to be 100% flesh and blood. I think they are 100% flesh and blood, but I think they have abilities beyond what we know about. Yep. But talking about these things not just being a natural creature, if you would be so kind as to do something for me, you can look at our website, because I know you've had it up at and you can go to the speaking engagement page and scroll down to the bottom of the speaking engagement page, and you'll see something that has appeared on our website. And honest to goodness, I don't even know if our web designer knows it's on there. It wasn't on the picture. We've got another picture that was taken of that podium. But if you go to the speaking engagement page, scroll down to the bottom, there's a picture of me standing at a podium. And if you zoom into the part. Yeah, if you zoom in, my pants have begun to like melt on it. I wish I could see it. Yeah, zoom into the bottom of that podium. My pants have begun to melt, and there's a face that's appearing. Yeah, yeah. On the bottom, there's a face that's appearing on the. If you'll take a screenshot with your phone, and zoom in more. There is a face appearing on the bottom of that podium. That was not. Yeah, that's not. That's Pat. That's
Hang on.
Yeah, we got to scoot over to where it was.
It zoomed wrong.
It was
yeah. That face appeared. That was our Bigfoot press conference saying, "Hey, we photographed over 60, telling people about our book and things like that." We did that in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and we have other pictures of that podium, and that is not on there. That face appeared after the fact on the podium at the bottom of the podium. If you zoom it in, that face was not there. And we have seen photo manipulation like this several times. I know it's hard to wrap your brain around, and I'm sorry if this is freaking some folks out, but that's just the truth. Hey man, I get nervous talking about this stuff. I think we know too much, but that's the truth, what I'm telling you.
You ain't lying about it though. Whether that's an error in the upgrade or upload or what.
Wait, if you can use a cell phone, take a picture and then zoom in on that, it looks crazy. It doesn't. It's not a Bigfoot, but it's crazy, man. We have seen 15, 20 different times photo manipulation after the fact. I know that sounds bizarre. It's scientifically impossible. We agree. If somebody were telling me this, I wouldn't. And listen, we're letting our hair down tonight, Bobby. I apologize, man. Normally we don't. But
this is what I do here on my show.
Yeah, but the facts are the facts, man. That's the kind of stuff we see on a pretty regular basis, right there.
Here you go. I did it. I did it for you.
Yeah. That was
holy shit.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
See what we're talking about, man?
I wasn't ready for the eyeball.
Yeah, we get this kind of stuff all the time, dude. I mean, all the time, man. Just it ain't somebody or something don't want us doing what we're doing.
We were there in this conference center an hour before time, checked everything, made sure everything was all clean. We have other pictures of this podium, and there's nothing down there.
And see my pants, how they look like they're melting off there?
Yeah,
that's bizarre, man. I mean, that's the real deal. People don't believe it. Go to www.thebigfootfinders.com, man. It's there on the speaking engagement page. But this stuff is real.
Like you can tell, it's like it's using the stuff that's in the photo to do it, but it's like doing it that.
Exactly. Bizarre. I mean, just totally. And dude, this will keep you up at night if you do. I mean, we're born again Christians. We don't walk in fear, but this kind of stuff is real, and there's crazy stuff out there. That's all I'll say. There's just crazy, and that's how we know is what we do about, the same thing we're telling you about. This was at the Bigfoot conference, our press conference, and that thing shows up on the podium after the fact. So,
just down the road from the White Castle. I say that because when the tornadoes come through in 2011, we went up to Murfreesboro and ate at the White Castle.
Yeah.
We didn't have any power. We got to do something.
Yeah. My son used to love White Castle, man. I had a son that loved it.
That's crazy. That's literally like, you can tell that's a heck of an artifact that just happened.
Sure, man. I mean, help us tell the world. We have trouble getting traction. We're real. We're sincere, man. We wouldn't know how to mess with any of this stuff if we knew how to. But we need to get the word out. Because these things are real, and we believe the world deserves to know the truth.
Well, I got a buddy in Minnesota that has a lot of the same issues you have.
Yeah.
Or same phenomenon. And the first night we met and did a show, I couldn't keep my computer on the whole time.
Yeah.
And wow. I've got good stuff here. I mean, don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm kind of technically savvy. And I was rebooting, and I had a co-host that kept the show going. And I'm rebooting and resetting like every 30 minutes. I'm what the heck is happening? And then right like in the end of it, I'm like, man, your Bigfoot are messing with me. And then he comes on my buddy's show like a month and a half later, and he'll talk to him in the afternoon. He'll say like, hey guys, Randy here. If you're listening or in the area, give us a sign, and his internet will drop. And just every time, like this is Like, I don't even have doubts to what you're saying at all. Like, this is the kind of thing
Yeah.
you see. Digging too deep.
Yeah. I wish it wasn't that way. Honestly, we just wish it was just a big ape. That'd be fun. This is fun, bizarre, exciting, the trip of our life. We call ourselves the ultimate adrenaline junkies. But at the same time, man, you just can't, there's no place to process it. They don't teach you this in school.
What is your strategy for a new place to go when you start looking for them? Like,
No, man, that's a great question.
Flowers, butterflies, scenery.
Our number,
It doesn't really matter. I mean, we go
Water.
just about any place.
I know water's like one of them.
Yeah, water's the main thing when we're out searching, finding.
yeah, the biggest, no, I mean, Brenda's right. We've made a commitment to each other. Life wasn't perfect to this point, but for the last 14, 15 months since we've been together, it has been. And we're going to enjoy the journey. Having said that, on the natural side, the problem is when you talk about this stuff, people want the list. And sure, water's important, the proximity to water. We find these things pretty urban, but there's a certain look you look for. I love down to trees where trees are pushed over. Maybe they've cleared some land off. I think it really gets them upset, so we get some good pictures around that. We like the cypress trees around here, down around the water. We like rock outcroppings, things like that. And we love long trails that'll go maybe 50, 75 yards and then take a crook to the right or left. Many, many times, if you'll just take a picture, and not worry about whether one's there or not, you'll find one in that. But having said that, it's more important to go with your gut than it is. We could care less. We love areas where nobody's ever. Listen, one of the very best pictures we've got is the Jackson Bigfoot. You can see his eyelid on his right eye. BFRO's never reported a Bigfoot sighting in this county, and this was in the city of Jackson. It's a pretty good sized city.
Yeah,
and so,
little one.
yeah, and so the truth is with us, it's not about where you go as much as it's about how you look for them. Once you learn how to look for them, you'll find them. So it's much more about learning the how. And that's what our book does. I mean, that's not just a shameless plug for our book. We don't mind. We share pretty much everything one bit at a time on TikTok or on shows like this, but our book kind of breaks it down. But we, so if you want to know how to find them, that's really how. But we call it our spidey sense. When our spidey sense tingles, you just know you're close to them. And so, that's part of it as well. So part of it is just kind of going with your gut, going with kind of deep inside your knower, you just know where to go. Many times we'll set out for one place and wind up somewhere we've never seen before. We got pictures we posted today. They're maybe not the best, but we were here in Bipedal walking. We were telling people they were there, and Brenda got some good pictures of them. And, we've never even been there before. We love places we've never been. We found them at we're over 30 different locations in 5 different states that we photographed Bigfoot, Dogman, and other cryptids. And so they're not hard to find. It's more about how you find them. But yes, water's the number one thing we look for. We like smaller rivers better than big rivers.
The main thing is we go out there and we have fun. And if we happen to catch a Bigfoot, more power to it. That's even better.
It's never a bad time to hang out in the woods and walk around.
That's right.
Harley from Bigfoot Reports and Data is commenting. They said, "Hey,
that's our buddy. He's the best."
They're on you're on the little screen, so I figure I'd tell you. You know something? I'm gonna get you to tell the Huntsville story by itself here in a minute. But
sure.
A few years ago, I lost a bunch of weight, and I've since gained it back because of the pandemic. And I got into running 10Ks and 5Ks, and I tried to run a half marathon on top of Montesano Mountain. You know where that's at because your son.
Yeah, I know exactly where it's at. Yeah.
But I was on top. I was running a half marathon, and you just hit me when you said that something a while ago. I got 8 miles in, and got turned around, and ended up back at my car. And to this day, I don't know how I missed the turn. And I wonder if I wasn't being messed with, because I remember it ended up like on the wrong trail for no reason. And I'm like, how did I miss? And I've got all kinds of lost. Ended up back in my car up there. And to this day, I'm like, how did I do that? And now I'm thinking, wait,
It's possible.
We've had all kinds of weird stuff happen, and you just said something too. I want to jump in there before we talk about that Huntsville story, and that is back at the car. We've got many, many, many of the best pictures we've taken. We've had visual sightings. We've got some of the best dogman, some of the best Bigfoot, either when we first get out of the car or when we get back in the car, they'll follow you. You are the bait. That's one thing we say in our book. You're the bait man, but these things are extremely curious of humans. Most people, their mistake is they wait to take that photograph when they see one. We just photograph before we see them when we know they're there. But anyhow, don't discount because, hey, I'm back at the car. There's not one around. Even if it's a pretty kind of segue into the Huntsville deal, there were probably a dozen cars in the parking lot. We went back in through there with my son and his daughter and his wife, and they were leading the way. They were making noise. Me and Brenda and I were in the back trying to take a picture. We were trying to show them how we do it, but their little girl was excited. She's awesome. Lacey, if you ever watch this, Grandpa loves you. And so, but she was she was amazing. But they were out front, and we were lagging in the back. So something was throwing acorns at us. I mean, that's all there was to it. We were probably 15 minutes from the car when we got the Sasquatch photo. I don't want to tell you that. I mean, you've already seen some of our stuff, man. You know we're legit. But when we first left that parking lot, from the parking lot, we take maybe 50 steps and we got a really good dogman picture. And the dogman is standing at the crook it's where the trail splits. So you got about 50 yards and the trail takes a hard right and a hard left. And the dogman was standing right there. And there's no telling how many people peek out, how many people walk by that thing that day. If it stayed there, I don't know. But so those are the two pictures we got that day. And we weren't in the woods 45 minutes. But the little Sasquatch, it was just acorns just kept. It wasn't just them falling; they were being tossed at us, and we would just look at each other. And we were like, "Wow, there's got to be something there," you know. And anyhow, we took some pictures, and when we got back, I sent them to my son, and he was like, "Wow." He couldn't first. We sent him the dogman, and he's like, "Wow, this is bad." I go there all the time, and then we sent him found the juvenile Sasquatch. When I say juvenile, it's very young, but anyhow.
It amazes me because I used to think that all Bigfoot looked the same, like Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, it's 10 foot tall, big around.
Yeah.
Now.
Not whatsoever. We've got so many different colors and shapes and sizes. I mean, it blows my mind away what we've seen and what we photographed. It's just unbelievable.
Sure.
It's like people. Not all two people look the same. Not all Bigfoot look the same.
Absolutely.
Do you ever do the camera on your back strategy? Like
I bought him one for Christmas. He has not used it yet.
We keep forgetting.
Yes, we keep forgetting it.
We want to do that. We are fans of Scott Carpenter, who passed recently. God rest his soul. But yeah, I know he did that. And so we got the camera. We just like our phones.
I don't blame you there. I mean, there's obviously to have them always on you.
Yeah.
I think as we dive deeper, I even considered like taking like a couple $1,000s and buying the cameras I was talking about earlier, the spring-loaded mechanicals, and like having our own little web store just for paranormal folks, not just cryptids, but there's something to that digital manipulation and the electromagnetic field. There's something missing.
We haven't even, that one we showed you on the website's not even the craziest thing we've seen.
Yeah.
It may be in the top 3 or 4, but we've seen some stuff. We had a picture, what I thought was an amazing dogman picture, and I showed it to Brenda one night, and you see what that picture's doing. We don't make this stuff up, and that picture, we've watched it morph more over the last couple of months, but on the website. But this dogman picture, it got so bizarre that she said, please just delete all those, because I'll take a bunch of screenshots at different angles and different lighting. And I mean, it just got so bizarre and so demonic. We've got if you look on our website right now, we've got a dogman that we got 15 feet up a tree looking at us. and after we took the picture, all these demonic emblems appear on his belly. Now, we don't make that happen. I thought when we got it, I thought this is going to be one of the best dogman pictures anybody's ever seen. And then this distorted photo manipulation. It's probably down about halfway on our TikTok page, but these symbols start to show up on its belly. This stuff is real. I mean, you know, I'm not here saying we know everything, but we've learned a lot from these photos, and these are not just natural creatures.
Yeah, you actually got some good little silhouettes happening here. Some of the ones walking tree peekers.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. Yeah, people say some stuff, but man, you know, the photo manipulation is one of the reasons that a lot of people's, you know, I mean, why people are saying, well, all the photos are blurry. These things do manipulate photos. I mean, we've got many of our best photos were a lot better when we took them, and these things will kind of mess with them. I mean, it really happens. I know it sounds bizarre, but it happens.
Remember what I was saying earlier before we started? I thought about getting like a Faraday cage that was portable and putting the camera inside there. If they could. But who knows if that would even, if that kind of manipulation, it could be. I mean,
I you know, in our opinion, it's just all about catching them off guard, and you have to do it really quick and really indiscreetly. And you know, I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with it. We don't pack. We're, you know, we just walk in faith, but we just go out there and just like we're photographing nature, and we get a lot of these things in it. And some of them we see, and most of them we don't see. We see about maybe 1 out of every 10 or 12 Bigfoot, and we see about 3 out of every 100 dogmen statistically. But you know, they're still that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the dogman thing kind of scares me because nobody ever has a good dogman encounter. Nobody ever like sees one and it goes away. It always rips to something to shreds. That's all the land between the lakes. Everybody up there is dogman this and dogman that.
Well, let me tell you. Well, I don't know how deep I'll put that. So we got some really great pictures up there one day. And we're standing now. We've been 3 or 4 times. 2 times we're total bust. We've had the worst days we've ever had. Almost every day we go out and we get something, but we went twice to Land Between the Lakes and got almost nothing. One time was okay, and then one time was an amazing day. I'm standing right here, and this is another way you know these things. We've got pictures of Dogman and Bigfoot together. I know it doesn't make rational sense. People, where's the food source? Why aren't they fighting for territory? All this stuff. You can kick that out the window. I mean, these things hang out together. Whether they may fight some too. I'm not saying they don't, but we get photos together. So I'm getting some of the best Bigfoot pictures we've ever gotten. And here's Brenda 50 feet away getting Dogman pictures. And I'm telling you, if she would have had anything back then, a lot of the pictures you see on our website were taken with the Samsung Galaxy S8 active, which still existed and worked in 2023. And so that's how bad and old the phone was. But Brenda's phone was worse than mine. If she would have had a good phone when we first started, she got some amazing total bipedal canine standing up. She still got some. There's some on our website, bipedal canines, and she gets better dogman pictures than I do. But if we'd had a good camera that day, man, and those things are together, but we get more Bigfoot at the LBL than we do dogman, but we get both of them.
At one point in time, he was calling me the dogman queen. But yeah, we had crappy phones to begin with, and I finally forced him to upgrade to these, what were the best cameras out there with the Samsung S23 Ultras. I don't know how good the S24s are, but these things are really sweet, and they're so easy to just pull out, take a picture. That's it. You know, that way I can't imagine carrying around a big camera and taking pictures with it.
Now, is it just cameras? Is it just photographs you try to get, or have you ever acquired any physical evidence? Or footprints?
No, we've never cast a footprint. And kind of interested in that. We don't pursue it, but we do have a casting kit though, just in case.
Have you seen the footprints before?
Oh yeah. We no, not out in the woods. Nothing even close to good enough to cast. So here's what we do, different from most people, Bobby, is we don't go off the beaten path. Most of our pictures are from a trail
Okay.
or from a park, the end of a gravel road somewhere. And we do hike back in, but we stay on the main trail. If it doesn't cross over the main trail, we don't go out into the woods for miles like a lot of people. We stay pretty close. And so now most of the ones that we see, I'm telling you, half the ones we saw in person, like live last year, that we had the visuals of, I couldn't even take you back to where we saw. It's just places I stopped on the side of the road and get a picture or whatever. And but no, we did go back looking after one day because it was a pretty wet area. But we were about a week and a half later from getting the pictures to see if we could find some. But we've never cast a print.
To me, that would be a paradigm shift to see a print.
Yeah, it's on our short
Wild.
list. I think Harley up there that just said something, that chimed in. I think he's cast a few. So
he said he found a 20-inch track
Oh,
last
yeah.
weekend. That'd be crazy. I talked to a guy from Georgia that found a 21-inch one out where they use the bathroom in a camp. I'm like, wow.
We heard that interview, man. We heard that interview.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
pretty
Tony.
cool.
Man, Tony's crazy. He's from Georgia. He's one of the guys I met, when I first started meeting people.
Yeah.
That instead of when it all became real and I decided, I'm doing this the rest of my life. This is it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just Bigfoot, but like podcasting. I really love
Yeah.
it.
Well, if Harley's listening, he's 6'6". His footprint's probably 15 inches anyhow. So.
Yeah. It's like Shaq. Yeah, if it wasn't getting to be about 8:30, I'd send Harley a link, say we do a double feature. But
he's a great guy, man. Check him out sometime. He's a great guy. So
I've had people like him. I've had him on every once in a while. Somebody will say they cancel their guest will. He said his foot size is 12. People like him, they'll do a thing because I do it every Sunday night, regardless whether I'm live or recording, and he'll be like, they'll say, well, my guest cancels and no show tonight. And I'll be like, hey, you want to co-host on my show? Slum it. Yeah. It's happened several times. I have big podcasters on just a co-host.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
I don't mind that at all. So I had something else I was going to ask you. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, the big one. Have either of you, especially you, RD, have you ever had a near-death experience or died on the table, come back, seen the light?
People ask me, I've been asked that a time or two, and the answer is no, have not. I did spend about 27 years in the ministry, Spirit-filled ministry. And so, we've seen some stuff in that realm, but, no, I've never had a near-death experience.
I have.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Dogman Whisperer over here has had one. What happened?
Yeah, I was 5 minutes from dying. I was losing so much blood faster than they could pump it into me. I was hit by a car when I was on a moped when I was 15. And first the doctor comes out and tells my parents, first I'm going to save her life and then I'll save her leg. And he did both. But yeah, that was, I don't remember anything for 2 weeks. I don't remember the accident. I don't remember 2 weeks worth of pain and being in the hospital for a month. But yeah, I was told that I was pretty close to being history.
I knew one of you did. I knew it. There's too much going on. But yeah, just the fact that she came along sort of later in the game and all of a sudden just fit right in. That's
in every way. Every way, man. Every way,
intense.
I'm telling you.
I knew something was up. I knew you two weren't just haphazardly into this. And yeah, because you're talking about Kunbo a while ago.
Yeah.
I met him about 2 weeks ago up at LBL.
Yeah.
I put that picture up a while ago. I showed him on there, just flashed it. But him and Trey Allen and House were all talking about all their near-death experiences. Mm-hmm. I'm like, these three guys have the same story, and I don't think they're lying. Something's going on. But they talk about how good they are with animals, and I'm like, that is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think there's probably a connection as well. But anyhow, needless to say, we're soulmates, so I guess that's why they show up for me too.
Mm-hmm. You've got that initial experience. Once you have the one, It's almost like the veil's what do I say,
Yeah.
thin, exposed around where you're at.
It really is. I mean, half the ones that we see are some of our very best photos. It's not, people always, a lot of times they want to know, well, how do you see so many, or how do you do this, or whatever. And this is more like we just kind of fumble and stumble and happened up at the right place, and there they are. I mean, seriously, it's more like that than it is when we look at the topographic maps and we zoom in on Google Earth and, we check sightings. We don't do any of that stuff. We look around water and you learn what to look for. There's certain things you look for that they're attracted to. And, and sometimes we may take 150 pictures and only sometimes not have anything. And sometimes we may get 2 or 3 out of 150 pictures. Sometimes we're in a great area and we know it. And it's just one of those days. And we may get, maybe 5% of the pictures will have something pretty good in it. And then you get your 1 or 2 really killer photos. And that's really exciting. I mean, there's nothing like the adrenaline rush. I mean, sometimes we do go a pretty good ways in the wood, especially just when we stay on the trail. But, sometimes we'll be back a mile and a half in the woods, get an amazing dogman or Bigfoot picture or something else. And when we get back home, we're like, wow, we were that far back in the woods and this thing was 75 feet from us, or even worse, we got one of our best bipedal dogman. We got, as we entered the woods and walked back about a mile and a half in the woods and had to walk straight back past it, and we didn't know it was there. And so you get home and you're like, we took this picture on the way down and it was standing right there, and so anyhow, it's a trip.
I think the way you're researching is better than some of the guys that go in like the paramilitary and just scare the hell out of everything in a 5-mile radius.
Exactly.
And that I was told to do it just like you're doing it. If I ever wanted to do it, go in, act like you're a camper, and just go back to your car and go back to your fire and act like you're not looking for them.
Yep.
Man, we've got a section in our book that says you are the bait, and we use the old analogy of the beautiful woman tied up in King Kong comes out of the woods. But these things are extremely curious to people. And just so you don't blow your cover and act like you're looking for them too much. I think that's I think you're exactly right. I think that's one of the
Bob Wilson said that we are their TV. And so
exactly right. We are.
Just go in and act like a normal and go back to your campsite and they'll follow you and throw a rock at your fire.
That's exactly right, man. And we haven't had very many aggressive, but like I said, we don't stay out in the woods at night, but we haven't had much aggression or anything. We just treat them right and they treat us right at this point. So
I think they know your name by now. They definitely know your website. I mean, you got me over here kind of cold chilling like I'm doing a human pendulum. So something's up with you. There's a lot of energy in this room. I don't know if it's all the caffeine or not. I'm pretty jacked.
And that's why they call you the Caffeinated Cryptid, right?
I had to make that up. It was the Bobby Dizzle podcast, but then the only people that come on here was paranormal people.
Yeah.
So it's like I got to change the name.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, fellas, I'll go ahead and let you go. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a freaking blast. The comments have lit up.
Well, fantastic, man. Hey, listen, it's been our pleasure. We appreciate it.
Oh yeah, and everybody, be sure to share this with your friends and if you liked it, because I want to get bigger and have these things more often and better, and eventually I'm going to have my own convention and studio. So you heard?
Sounds great.
Get in on the ground floor.
And we want to speak at conventions too, so that just don't forget us when you make it big, Bobby. Okay?
Oh no, if I make it, everybody makes it. It's going to get ugly. I'm going to come like 40 Nations Coalition of the Willing, George W. Bush style. Everybody's coming with me. I'm going to look like Odin.
Well, man, you mind if we shoot out a shameless plug for our book right quick?
Yeah, go.
Absolutely, man. The book's called The Bigfoot Finders, and the best way to find us on TikTok or whatever is go to our website, www.thebigfootfinders.com.
Yep, and every way to find them is in. Why is my kid being so loud right now? Every way to find them is in the description of both the podcast and the YouTube. How if you're listening to it just in your car, it's in the description of your podcast. All
And
the
in
TikToks
July,
and-
we're going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival or conference.
Yeah.
Well, I will see you there. I'll give you
All
a big
right,
hug.
man. We'll have a booth. So we look forward to meeting you in person, Bobby.
I'm just gonna come through one day and go hang out with C Wayne afterwards, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get a booth because that's just a lot of money. I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I'm
come
gonna
hang
meet
out with
everybody.
us at ours, man. We need some clout at ours. So come
Oh yeah.
come raise the average by hanging out with us, man.
I'm gonna go swing my weight around. And all my loud ass kids and their pancake syrup their pancake sticky fingers.
That's funny,
Yeah,
man.
Harley, I'll get with you as well. Anyways, folks, everybody, thanks for watching and share it if you liked it. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe because it ruins the algorithm, but do what you want to do. See you, RD and Brenda.
Have a good
Absolutely.
night.
Bye-bye.
Maybe I'll see you in July, hopefully. Peace out.
I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it, I didn't believe in it. I never given it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.